We are live. Greetings, everyone, my fellow Nigerians, wherever you are, whether in Nigeria or outside Nigeria, in the diaspora. My name is Edmond Ikeh. I am a humble host, hosting the show, Nigerian Constitution on Your Right, Nigerian Constitution Know Your Right. It's a show powered by the Global Coalition for Security and Democracy in Nigeria, 9 p.m. Nigerian time. It used to be 3 p.m. US Central Time, but due to daylight saving time that started last Sunday, so it's going to be 2 p.m. US Central Time, 3 p.m. US Eastern Time, and that is the show time. We'll start a little late today because of something beyond my control, but here I am because I do not want. Even though I'm late, I didn't want to miss the whole day, the whole show entirely, so I decided to come on and still come live and air the show. So welcome aboard. If you're just joining me, take a minute and share the link. I like the video and invite more people to watch so that we can learn together the content of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. Join me into this journey as we discuss the topic, the foreign policy objective. So that means the foreign policy objective of the Nigerian government. So every government is supposed to have a foreign policy. That is the way they interact with other countries, the way they do businesses with other countries, and the world view on how they interact with other countries. So that is the focus of today's conversation, and it's still part of our conversation of Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, of Nigeria as amended. And we are almost getting to the ending or the winding down on Chapter 2. And after that, we'll dive into Chapter 3. So we are talking about the foreign policy, okay? If you have a minute, you can say hello, you can send message, you can send your greetings, and if you can ask questions, I'll have an interactive section, okay? A comment here. Thanks, thank God saying I may first come today. That's right. Say good evening all and welcome Dr. Edmond. Good evening, Ms. Rita. Thank you for always being here. I really appreciate your support and your consistency in being part of the show. And I hope you join me in the conversation, interact with me, ask questions, because I am the only one in the studio. I don't have any guests today. So if you can ask questions and be part of the conversation, that will keep me excited in the studio and don't make me too lonely in the studio tonight. All right, let's delve into the conversation. Foreign policy is focused on chapter 2 of the Constitution and section 19. So section 19 of the Constitution, it says, the foreign policy objective shall be the promotion and protection of the national interest. That is what the focus of the foreign policy of Nigeria. That is protection, promotion of national interest. Protection, promotion of national interest. That should be the focus of the foreign policy of Nigeria. That is the goal of Nigerian foreign policy, is to promote and protect our national interests. you were thinking now like, oh, is Nigeria actually protecting its national interests? Is Nigeria actually protecting its national interests? Think about that for a minute. How do we interact with other nations? What do we do out there? Is taking humongous loans and squandering it, is it part of protecting and promoting national interests? It's signing national. We've talked about signing treaties. So I will say how Nigerians have been lazy in their approach of signing treaties with other countries or other bilateral agencies or other multinationals or things like that, or unions like the African Union, the ECOWAS, and so ECOMOG, and so on and so forth. So do Nigeria really read the content of those treaties or those agreements they sign? So that is also part of uh, protecting national interests. When they are lazy in doing their due diligence, when they partake in such processes or partake in such activities, and they don't do their due diligence, that means they are not protecting their national interests. Okay. Then section 19 B, it says promotion of African integration and support of African unity. Okay, that Nigeria is supposed to promote African integration and support African unity. African unity. Is Africa even united in the first place? And what role is Nigeria playing to deepen the integration in the African continent? And what role are we doing as a country to unify the continent? Okay? Africa is a continent and Nigeria is a country, and Nigeria is the most populated country in the entire continental Africa. Nigeria is the most populous black country in the globe, black country in the world. So we are saddled with the responsibility of fostering unity of all other African countries because we have been saddled. Become natural that Nigeria become the big brother of Africa, that will become the big brother of other African countries, or those tiny countries that have population less than 1 million, or that have population less than 5 million, or that have population about 20 million. Those are tiny, little African countries that should look up to Nigeria. But do you look up to a cripple when you are whole-bodied? Do you look up to a handicapped that cannot help themselves when you're full-bodied and can help yourself? Nigeria have been handicapped by the kind of leaders we have. The leaders who do not care about the nation, not to talk about caring about deepening the integration of other African countries or unifying other African countries. Can you unify other people when you are divided? Can you? Because it was funny, a few years ago, they said, oh, Nigeria went for peace talk in Ethiopia. Nigeria went for peace talk in Chad to help them settle matter, or in Mali. Or like when President Buhari or General Buhari went to a meeting in Mali to talk about what's going on and how to bring peace to the country. And at that time, Nigeria was not peaceful. So you leave your country that is unpeaceful to go to another man's country to talk about bringing peace to that country. Does that even make sense? Does that make sense? So we have become a country of failure, and we'll propagate this failure anywhere we go, everywhere we go. And is that what we want as a people? Do we want that to remain the status quo? Do we want that to remain the kind of thing that people recognize Nigeria as? When people think about Nigeria, they think about a failed state, a country that is disunited, a country that lacks unity among its people. So by being disunited, the country will fail to unite its fellow African country as suggested or as prescribed by subsection 19B of section 19 of chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. So do we want to continue like this, or do we want to do something different? That is a question I'm asking you. So if you take a minute, you can answer the question, use the comment section. How has Nigerian failed to unify the country? And how can Nigeria work to unify the country and become a better big brother for Africa, for continental Africa? I want to hear your voice, I want to hear your opinion, and that would be great. As you're thinking about this question, as you're thinking about your response, I will talk about the next subsection is subsection 19C. So, promotion of international cooperation for consolidation of universal peace and mutual respect among all nations and elimination of discrimination in all its manifestation. Elimination of discrimination in all its manifestation. The same way I approached the unifying of other African countries, I'll look at this subsection similarly. That how can Nigeria work with other nations of the world or other African nations to eliminate discrimination in all its manifestation when Nigeria is a harbinger of discrimination? Nigeria is a harbinger of discrimination. So how can we work with other nations as a country? How can Nigeria work with other nations to eliminate discrimination in all its forms when Nigeria is a harbinger of discrimination? Let me read. I think Rita's gave a submission right now, so I'll read it so that we can add that to the discussion. Here, Rita says, the world as we speak today knows that Nigeria herself is disunited under President Muhammadu Buhari than ever before. And it is a known fact that a divided home can never unite a thing, let alone Africa as a whole. You are completely right. You are completely right, my dear friend Rita. You cannot unite anything when you yourself is disunited. It's just like you are fighting and you say, oh, you want to go and settle on that fight. You are in a quarrel and you want to go and settle on that quarrel. Does that make sense? Is that even possible? Is that doable? Is that conceivable? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. So sections 19C, so mutual respect among all nations. Mutual respect among all nations. Does any nation in the world respect Nigeria? Does any nation out there respect Nigeria? Because Nigeria has no respect for itself. So they say respect is reciprocal. So you respect me, I respect you. But does any nation respect Nigeria? And you respect something that you of value, right? What is the value in Nigeria? Or what value does Nigeria project out there that will make people say, okay, this is a sensible nation. This is a nation that's working for its people. This is a nation that it's functional. This is a nation that have value, or that have developed, that have increased the human development index of these people. Nigeria is one of the countries of the world that have the lowest human development index. So doesn't it make it difficult to respect such a nation? I think they make it difficult to respect Nigeria. Nigeria cannot compete with other nations of the world. We can't even compete with African nations. And we are supposed to be the African powers. We're supposed to be the uh, the biggest economy of Africa as a continent. And we're supposed to be many good things, but we're not measuring up. How can you respect a country that does not measure up? The country is supposed to uh, be doing 90%, but they end up doing a measly 20%. How can you respect such a country? How can you interact with such a country with mutual respect? How can you do such a thing? So think about this. I'm having this conversation in the question form because I want to, anyone that is listening to me, this particular uh, discussion, I want to provoke you to think about the state of our country, the state of our nation, because we're in a campaign season. Campaign is going on for the highest seat of the land and other seats as well for other branches of government like the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the other levels of government like the state government that are going to be doing gubernatorial election and other state house assembly. So all these are going to be happening next year in 3 months' time for the presidential election and in 4 months' time for the governorship elections on the state level. So it's a campaign season. You have to start assessing where we are as a people, where we are as a country, and the various states that constitutes the whole, or the various states that constitute the so-called federation. So that you start thinking about what kind of people do we want to get into those seats of power to begin to re-engineer our country, to make us really respect and rebuild and refocus our foreign policy so that we can measure up to the prescription of our constitution. Our constitution prescribes this beautiful and lofty things to aspire to promote and protect the country and national interests and so on and so forth. But we have not lived up to that. So we need leaders that will help us start living up to that and even more, to go above and beyond. We want leaders to go above and beyond. Okay? And it is your responsibility to make sure such leaders emerge by not selling your votes. Section 19, subsection 19D. So respect for international law and treaty obligations, as well as seeking of settlement of international disputes by negotiation, mediation, conciliation, arbitration, and adjudication. Too much big words in this said one sentence or one subsection. So that means Nigeria as a country is supposed to respect international laws and agreement, as well as settling any international dispute by negotiation, mediation, conciliation, arbitration, and adjudication. We are supposed to respect international law. There is something going on in Nigeria right now for people that pay attention about our judicial space and what our judiciary is doing, and not just what our executive is doing. Because Nigeria is a country, so it's not that our leaders have failed, or it's not only our leaders have failed, but the citizens have failed. Because the citizens are not paying attention to actually what is happening in the country. They're not paying attention to what the leaders are doing in various levels of government or in the various branches of government. Because we don't even understand that there are different branches of government. There is the executive branch, There is the legislative branch and the judicial branch. Well, Nigerians mostly pay attention to the executive branch of government. The executive branch of government and the federal level is the president, uh, and the vice president, and all those ministers you hear about, which were appointed by the president, and the parastatals, and all those commissions created. Those are the executive branch of government, and that's the only thing we pay attention to as Nigerians. I want to do better to pay attention to all branches of government, like the other branch of government, the legislature, the lawmakers, who are as corrupt as the executives, and who are not prepared to respect the laws they make, and who don't even understand the laws they make, or the constitution that empower them to make such laws. So we need to start paying closer attention to that branch of government. That's the senators, the House of Representatives, which both of these bodies make up the National Assembly. We need to start paying attention to what that branch of government does. And we need to start paying attention to what the judiciary does, the judges. What do they do in our court system? What do they do in our court system? That's another branch of government, the judicial branch of government. Okay. In this subsection, you say that Nigeria is supposed to respect that's subsection 19D. Say Nigeria ought to respect international laws and treaties obligation. We have talked about here weeks ago that Nigeria is a signatory to many international treaties, international laws, international agreement. We sign all this agreement, but we do not uphold it. Why? Why? A good example is what's going on in Nigeria now. If you know, the big case going on between the federal government versus Nnamdi Kanu. So Nnamdi Kanu was adopted from Kenya by the federal government and brought into Nigeria in secret, and is being tried. He's been in the custody of the federal government, or the DSS, Department of State Services, or the actual name is the SSS, is the actual acronym before they change it to DSS. So now we kind of have been in custody for over a year, and they have been going to legal case. And finally, the Court of Appeal discharged and acquitted the man Nnamdi Kanu, saying that there is illegality in the way the federal government brought him to Nigeria. They adopted him, breaking international laws and the laws of the country. So you see, and what does the Constitution say in section 19D? It says we have to respect international law and treaty obligation. But Nigeria failed in that. That is the prescription of the Constitution. Nigerian government failed in that. They disrespected international law and its own law, its own constitution. And that is why the judge discharged and acquitted Nnamdi Kanu. But again, guess what? Nigerian government is used to not respecting its laws. Again, even though the judicial branch, which is supposed to be independent, have discharged and acquitted the victim, Nnamdi Kanu. What did the government do? The government refused to obey that court order again, and decide that they are not going to respect that. They're going to keep illegally detaining Nnamdi Kanu. This is just one case. This has happened over and over again. If you remember, and I made video about when Omoyele Sowore was illegally detained by the same custody of DSS or SSS, and even the court asked that Sowore have fulfilled his court obligation that he should be released. They refused to release him. And this, I'm just calling this prominent names that you know of. This have happened to many other people, many other names that you've never heard or you don't know about. Nigeria is a country that operates or that thrives in illegality. That is what I want to point out here. Okay, let's read more comment. I think Ms. Rita is on fire. She is corresponding and commenting in the comment section. So let's read more of her comment. All right. So how can Nigeria be respected as a country when all we do as citizens is to elect thieves and people with questionable characters as leaders? Election is around the corner, and some Nigerians are rooting for Tinubu with drug case hanging on him in the United States of America, leaving an impeccable Mr. Peter Obi, whose source of income is as clear and simplified like the letters A, B, C. Yeah, you made a valid point, Ms. Rita. I mentioned that it's not just our leaders have failed, it's the citizens have failed. The Nigerian people have failed to do their due diligence in electing the right leaders, as they rightly said. They always elect the worst among us. So if you elect the worst among us, and you're going to expect for them to respect the rule of law? No, they're not going to respect the rule of law because you elected a criminal. What do you know criminals to do? Criminals thrive in illegality. Criminals thrive in lawlessness. So how do you expect a criminal to promulgate or propagate law and order and a law structured society? How do you expect that? When you elect a criminal, you expect him to become an angel. It doesn't work like that. So, my fellow Nigerians in Nigeria, it is high time we'll start electing men and women of unimpeachable character. Men and women who have lived a right, lawful life, who have lived a life to enrich the society and not to steal shamelessly from the society. Men and women who are passionate about building a nation. Men and women who are true citizens and not idiots. Nigerians keep electing idiots into power and hope they become citizens or statesmen and women. It does not work that way. We need to do our part. We want to play our cards right. We need to do our due diligence when electing our leaders. Election is at the corner. Who are you going to elect as the president and the vice president? Who are you going to elect as senators representing your senatorial zones? Who are you going to elect as House of Rep members representing your federal constituencies? Who are you going to elect as a governor of your state? Who are you going to elect as a co-running mate of your governor, the deputy governor? Who are you going to elect as the House of Rep members representing your state constituencies? Who are you going to elect as your local government chairman and chairwoman or chairpersons? Who are you going to elect as councillors of your ward, of your various ward, in the ward level? Who are you going to elect as even community leaders, like in the little communities, the social cultural groups? What kind of people do you elect to lead your spaces, your organizations, your communities, your state, and the nation? What kind of leaders do you want to elect? Start thinking about all these things and do the right thing. Start thinking about others and do the right thing. I only have one more subsection to read. So before I do that, I'm just going to speak about the candidates that the Global Coalition for Security and Democracy is supporting for this election season. Okay? Global Coalition for Security and Democracy in Nigeria did an online poll not too long ago, last month, October 23rd, and Mr. Peter Gregory Obi and his running mate Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed emerged as a candidate that the presidential and vice presidential candidate of the 2023 presidential election, that the coalition, the GCSDN, shall campaign for, support, and promote during this campaign season. And we have been doing that, the coalition have been doing that. And I want to take this few seconds to remind you that this is a candidate that we want you to vote for. This is a candidate that mirrors the aspirations of many Nigerians, that mirrors the aspirations of the people and members of the Global Coalition for Security and Democracy in Nigeria. He is a man of integrity. He is a man that has been tested and tried at the state level, and have a vision to bring that in the national level, to build a nation that we all will be proud of Nigeria as Nigerians, to build a nation who shall live up to all these beautiful things that have been prescribed by our constitution. That's promotion and protection of the national interest, promotion of international cooperation for consolidation of universal peace, mutual respect among all nations, and elimination of discrimination in all its manifesto. So you will not be discriminated upon because you are an Igbo man, or because you're a Yoruba man, or because you're a Hausa man, or because you're a Ibibio, Efik, Kanuri, Urobo, Bini man, Bini woman, or from Kanem Borno, or from Efik, or from Kalabari, or a German, or a Joe woman. All those other tribes or nationalities in our beloved country, Nigeria, you will not be discriminated upon because you belong to such minority ethnic groups of Nigeria. This is the man that says vote for him as a Nigerian so that he can help us to create Nigerians. Okay? Because Nigeria is a mere geographical expression that does not have Nigerians. There are no true Nigerians. We only have tribesmen. So one will get the right leadership in the person of Mr. Peter Gregory Obi and his running mate, Dr. Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed, then one can begin the journey of creating Nigerians that will be respected, that will be protected, that will be catered and cared for at all levels. So do your due diligence. Hearken to the words of the Global Coalition for Security and Democracy in Nigeria, who are saying Peter Obi is the man. Obi Kiririnke, Obi Kiririnke, Obi Kiririnke. So be obedient and useful as I round up today's session. The last subsection says, subsection 19E, that shall be promotion of a just world economic order. A just world economic order. So Nigeria is supposed to promote a just world economic order so that there will be narrowing of the poverty gap in the land. The poverty gap in Nigeria is so wide. There's nothing just in that. When the economy is not in the right home about, and the poverty level in the land is so humongous that almost half of the population is living in extreme poverty, and only a small percentage of the country have all the wealth of the land. We need to change that, and we shall, and we must. And we can do that by electing the right leaders into power. Do your part by voting Peter Obi and Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed, President and Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria come February 2023. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening. And I hope to be back here next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Nigerian time, 2 p.m. US Central Time, 3 p.m. US Eastern Time, as we continue on the program, Nigerian Constitution and Your Rights. Nigerian Constitution, Know Your Rights. As we learn together of how to build a better country by holding our leaders accountable as prescribed by our Constitution, 1999 as amended, as we look forward to one day getting an even better, more beautiful people's Constitution. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great, great evening. Bye-bye.